Slavery is back.
Welcome to a place where private business profit from a captive labour force, yet pennies are spent on medical services to a population in which the Indigenous, the poor and the mentally ill are overrepresented. Where isolation, humiliation and degradation are facts of life. Welcome to prison.
It depends who's telling the story, I suppose. The prisoners would have one view, the people who work in the prison system would have another, and I think it's up to people to decide where the truth is.
Give government propaganda and the media spin doctors the flick. And check out Doin' Time for news, views and tunes on prison issues from Guantanamo Bay to Christmas Island to prisons and detention centres everywhere. Every Monday at 4 p.m. on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doin' Time show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. This is Marisa and I'll be taking you through until 5 o'clock this evening. First up on the show, we're going to be speaking with Chris Breen from the Refugee Action Collective, and we're going to be speaking to Chris about an upcoming rally that's coming up, No Mandate for Refugee Racism, Bring Them Here Free Priya Nades, and this is hosted by the Refugee Action Collective Victoria, and I'll be giving you the details of the rally shortly, although I will say for an introductory comment that the rally will be held at the State Library of Victoria, and it will be on Friday night, I believe, at 5:30. But we'll speak to Chris about that shortly. We're going to also analyse the election and also the election results, and also speak about an update to do with refugees and asylum seekers. After that, we'll be speaking with Vickie Roach, who is a wonderful Indigenous activist from Sydney, an excellent poet and writer. And we'll be speaking with her about incarceration and also about her experiences around being criminalised because she is from the stolen generation. And we'll be linking that up with Queensland, where a lot of Aboriginal youth and a lot of youth in general have been incarcerated as young people into adult prisons. So we're going to be speaking now with Chris Breen from the Refugee Action Collective. Hello, Chris. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Marisa. Thanks for having me on.
It's lovely to have you. Now, I'm wondering if you could just start off by giving us the details of the upcoming rally in regards to refugees and asylum seekers.
Certainly. The rally is going to be 5:30 this Friday at the State Library. It's hosted by Refugee Action Collective, but we've also put it out a call just now to the Home to Billow campaign and the Tamal Refugee Council to co-host it with us. We think it's important in the aftermath of Morrison's shock win, which is certainly bad news for refugees. Priya, Nades and their family, their two Australian-born daughters, face imminent deportation as a result of the election. It's been a bit of a blow to people on Manus and Nauru, who, hoped at least for some of them that the New Zealand deal might be a way out. And so we've held the rally also to say that Morrison has no mandate for anti-refugee racism. Refugees barely rated a mention in the campaign. And that we need to build the refugee movement. I think it's worth pointing out that there have been victories against Morrison that have been won. So the kids coming off Nauru was won by the movement, in solidarity with the struggles of refugees, against Morrison's wishes, and that we can build a movement which can close the camps despite the setback of the election outcome.
So basically what's happening is that Pri and her family are going to be deported?
Yes. So just a couple of days before the election, They lost a High Court case about whether they could have special appeal to continue. So now it is entirely in the hands of the incoming Immigration Minister and the Morrison government. I mean, it's worth saying the Morrison government does have, the ability to, they've got discretion. It's the minister's call about deporting this family, and that doesn't have to happen. And the bigger a response that we can get, the more likely that is to occur. But we know from the past 6 years of the coalition government that this is a cruel and, racist government, and it is going to take a fight.
So just to recap, before the election, there were going to be there was a deal, wasn't there, that the refugees could get off Nauru and Manus and go to New Zealand, right?
So, sort of. Jacinta Ardern in New Zealand offered to take 150 people per year. So Shorten said that if Labor formed government, they would accept that deal. That would have still left, 800 or so people on Manus and Nauru. So it wasn't a solution for everyone, but certainly getting 150 more people off is, for those 150 people, it's not the big miss that.
So they said no.
Yeah, the coalition has said no to the New Zealand offer all along consistently.
So it's even worse now?
Well, we've got Morrison back, and it's certainly not good for refugees, but, we do know how to fight Morrison. The refugee movement has fought Morrison. We haven't won everything, but there have been some successful outcomes. The Let Them Stay campaign, the Kids Off Nauru, the Medivac bill,
yes.
And it just means that we have to redouble our efforts to build the movement. We always knew that there wasn't going to be electoral salvation, that even under Shorten we would have to fight. But, that should be clear to everyone that it's up to us, it's our efforts that will make the difference.
Whilst democracy can be a farce in this disturbingly rotten racist system, we have to work with that element at the moment. And I'm wondering if you could just explain to listeners why refugees and asylum seekers barely featured in the election campaign.
I think there's two parts to that. So one is that both the major parties agreed on offshore detention and vote turnbacks. And so Labor's strategy of emphasising how much it agreed with, ironically, it didn't stop how much they agreed with the Liberals, didn't stop them being defeated. And, going quiet isn't a strategy. On the other hand, it's also the case, I think, that the refugee movement, has fought Morrison to a standstill at one level. We haven't won, but refugee bashing can't be used in the way that it was when Abbott won the Stop the Boats election. There's enough of the community that has a distaste for it that they're much more hesitant about how they push their anti-refugee racism. It's not that they don't do it, they do, but they're more careful about it. So particularly with the kids on Nauru, they did back down around that. The refugee movement has made some gains. The opinion polls, have shifted. It's still a majority in Victoria and New South Wales who think that the refugees on Manus and Nauru should be brought here. That has to end. So I think it's those two things together that meant that, refugees were not a feature of the campaign. And that's also why I think that, Morrison certainly cannot claim any kind of mandate for the sort of vicious anti-refugee, policies that we've seen.
How can he claim a mandate? That's
a good question. He's scraped in with, almost no policies at all. Perhaps other than the tax cuts. Mostly it was, very negative anti-Labor scaremongering.
Yeah.
what Morrison can claim a mandate on is virtually nothing, I think. He's going to be either a minority or a small majority government. They're not going to control the Senate. So as much as refugees don't like the outcome, it's not going to be a strong and confident government.
Is that right?
Well, we're certainly going to do our best to make sure that there is opposition from day one, and we continue to build the fight for refugee rights and the kind of world we want to live in.
Absolutely, Chris. And I've seen some of the demands here, in regards to the rally. Can you talk about those?
The demands of the rally are fairly straightforward. It's that to bring the refugees here from Manus and to free Priya, Nades and family, to no deportation to danger, to close the camps, essentially. I should also mention that we've got a major refugee rally coming up on July 20. July the 19th will mark 6 years since the Rudd's PNG announcement, basically 6 years that people have been on Manus and Nauru indefinitely held there, and we'll be saying to the Morrison government that 6 years is too long, that, you can't just imprison people who have committed no crime forever.
Chris, what do you think happened with Labor?
What do I think happened with Labor? That's probably a little bit beyond my reading.
I don't mean that you've got to analyse the election.
No, I'm just saying that I'm probably speaking on behalf of myself here rather than the refugee.
Well, let's formalise a little bit. Speak on behalf of the collective. But also, I suppose what the question is, that what I'm trying to get at here is, just to be clear, is basically, with Labor's refugee policies, it seemed to be very fragmented and very contradictory.
Yes,
do you think that's a fair statement?
I think that's true. They tried to play, both sides of the argument, a bit like with Adani as well, and they end up looking like they stand for nothing. So on the one hand, they kicked back the Medivac bill, which was good. It was a little break from bipartisan. They said they want to get rid of temporary protection visas. On the other hand, Shorten was absolute in his commitment to boat turnbacks and to keeping offshore processing and all of that cruelty. And so, people who, I don't think refugees influence people's votes on the main, but if people did want the cruelty, they would go with Morrison. And, not with Shorten's version of it. And I think that was a theme. There's been a bit of a myth, I think, developed in the media in the last few days that Labor was too big of a target. And I think there is a danger of Labor just withdrawing and saying, well, we're not going to say anything, we're going to be just like the coalition. But, the problem is that we have never actually seen an election fought on refugee issues.
Never. Where
Labor has stood up and fought and said, this is cruel, it's wrong. And the problem when they don't fight, it sends a signal to all Labor voters and supporters that this is okay, there's something all right about what the coalition are doing, and not fighting that vicious anti-refugee racism and cruelty, is not a strategy for change. It's not a strategy that works. Beyond that in the election, I think you do need to go beyond refugee issues. I think there was scaremongering about the franking credits, negative gearing, and, Labor's defence of these was, I thought quite feeble, rather than coming out and saying, actually, we're going to hit the rich. It's not about going after ordinary people. I think there's, a range of things. On the climate question, there wasn't enough focus on what they were going to do around jobs. If you look at places like the Hunter, there was a 21% vote to One Nation, which is not by any means all a racist vote. Certainly people were not prepared to vote for the racist, even if it wasn't directly. But it is a question about, jobs.
To be fair to Labor, though, I did notice two things, and I'm not sure whether you saw this, but to be fair, they did mention that they were going to have a policy of not having indefinite detention for refugees and asylum seekers.
They did, but that was contradictory once again.
Yeah, exactly.
So they said that they wanted to clear Manus and Nauru, but it came down to they were going to find third countries.
Yeah. And
the problem is they didn't have third countries. They still don't have third countries any more than the Liberals do. So beyond the 152 New Zealand, they had nowhere else to send people. I mean, what we were saying is that after the US deal, which is effectively exhausted, after New Zealand, the only third country is Australia. And if they were serious about ending indefinite detention, they could bring people here. And actually, I think that's a sort of policy which would have invigorated Labor supporters.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at 2007 when Rudd did promise to get rid of offshore processing. Yeah. It gave people a little bit of hope that there was going to be a real alternative, and I don't think there was enough of that this election.
Absolutely. And to be honest, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Greens didn't seem to have much of a policy either about refugees. I didn't see a lot of interviews on air about that. They had a little bit, but bring them here.
The Greens have been, decent on refugees. They often don't run on it as hard as we might like.
Correct.
In election campaigns. But they, their policies are good. It is for shutting down offshore processing. It is for bringing the refugees here.
But it's not as much as it should be, really.
No, certainly it's one issue that, it wouldn't do them any harm apart from anything else to run a little bit harder on it.
Chris, I'm so glad that we were able to clarify these issues because, there needs to be so much more work done to be able to speak to all politicians about refugees and asylum seekers. And I do remember that there was an event that the Refugee Action Collective organised with Labor. Do you remember that event? How do we break the bipartisan?
Yes.
And because there are a lot of really decent Labor candidates. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of double standard here and really vague policy.
There is an argument within the Labor Party. You go back to 2015, I think it was 40% of their conference voted against both turnbacks. I think it didn't come up at this conference, I think, because there's too much of an argument within Labor of just going quiet for short.
Yeah.
We just need to shut up and say whatever it, needs to do so that Shorten gets elected. And actually, it hasn't worked. And I do hope there are some people, in the Labor Party who start to learn those lessons. If we're going to get change, if we're going to shift refugee policy, people have to speak up about it publicly.
Absolutely.
Yes, certainly. The forum you're talking about, from memory, Jed Carney spoke at that, and that was when she was ACTU president. And she certainly played a useful role in terms of refugees when she was ACTU president. Now that she's an MP, we would love her to speak out more clearly and more strongly. Like if she was prepared to come up and say, bring those refugees here, I think that would start to have an impact. Jeremy Corbyn can stand at refugee rallies and say that refugees are welcome, 50,000 people in the UK. We need Labor figures to do the same here.
And really, there needs to be more of a cohesive and more solidarity and unity between Labor and the Greens. And in fact, when Bob Brown was in power, the Greens and the Labor worked together. They worked together on the Franklin Dam with Bob Hawke,
Certainly we, in the Refugee Action Collective, we try to make RAC a place that people can come together no matter their, if you want to fight for refugees, whether you're Labor, whether you're Greens. Yeah. I think there are a lot of people who want to see a broad movement which is, united to push Morrison back on this.
It's really disappointing and disturbing that the coalition is back in. I don't know how people can be so stupid to vote for the coalition. I'm sorry. Really? Really?
Certainly you've got people voting against their own interests in different ways.
Absolutely.
But I think stupid's perhaps not quite the right word.
Well, yeah.
I just think that the alternative that was posed to people, and you look at some of the coal community, that Labor talks about climate, and they're thinking, well, where are our jobs? What are what is the future going to be? And people weren't convinced about the alternative. And so I think, the alternative needs to be stronger and it needs to be sharper.
Absolutely, and I'll qualify that statement and just develop that point, and just say that, policies need to be clearer, and there's no room for racism, and I think that's really what I was trying to say. That it seems to be that we're heading into a conservative era here, and there's a lot of scaremongering. And, ignorance is no excuse. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, I think it's certainly the case that Labor agreeing with the coalition on refugees only cedes them political ground. It hands over that ground to racists. And I think what we need is a consistent anti-racist line from Labor across all policy issues. We do need to talk about, it's a wide movement, we need to talk about economics, but there are specific arguments on racism, on refugees that need to be dealt with, and they're not dealt with by agreeing with the coalition, they're not dealt with by going quiet.
Precisely. Chris, thanks so much for coming onto the program. And
thank you for having me once again.
I hope we're on the same page here.
Actually, just one last announcement. We do also have on Monday, June the 3rd, a post-election strategy meeting where we're inviting people from the broad movement, whether you're an independent activist or affiliated to other refugee groups, to come along and talk about what are going to be the priorities now under Morris government to organise the July 20 rally. It's up on our Facebook. If you look for Refugee Action Collective, please come along at the Nurses Union Building, Monday, 3rd of June, 6:30.
Union Building, where's that?
The Nurses Union, that's 535 Elizabeth Street in the city.
Chris, thank you very much for that. Keep up the good work. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And that was Chris Breen from the Refugee Action Collective speaking about the results from the election and how that's impacted on refugees and asylum seekers and how we can actually combat refugee cruelty. And is that actually going to happen with the coalition in power? I hope so.
In 2019, 3CR has the power. Add your support during the annual Radiothon to Power Radical Radio. Radiothon starts 3rd of June. To donate, call 039419 8377 or donate online at 3cr.org.au. 3CR Radiothon 2019. Power Radical Radio.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. And while we are on the subject of Radiothon, I just wanted to let you know that I believe Radiothon starts on the 3rd of June and it concludes on the 16th or 17th of June. I'll give you more information about that next week. Our show, Doing Time, is going to be on the 10th of June, which is the Monday of the long weekend. And our target is $850. So if people wouldn't mind starting to think about pledging and donating to the Doing Time show, and indeed for all shows at 3CR, and the donations are tax deductible. And it's just to keep us on air again. So I'm going to be playing a song now by Kev Carmody, and it's called Eulogy. And you're back with the Doing Time show, and that was a song by Kev Carmody called Urology. We're going to be speaking now with Vickie Roach, and as I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to be speaking to her about how young people have been placed in adult prisons, particularly in Queensland. There was a Four Corners special about that a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to talk to Vickie also about how she was criminalised as a little girl. Details coming up next about that. She did an excellent interview actually with Nit TV about this quite some time ago now, speaking about stolen generation. Hello, Vickie. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Marisa. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah. Great to have you.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, we were just having a chat. I was having a chat with Chris Breen actually prior to you about the election results. What a disaster.
What a disaster.
Oh.
My whole news feed is full of people either wanting to kill themselves or move to New Zealand.
I was seeing the same thing. So what mob are you from, Vickie?
Ewan mob, South Coast, New South Wales.
So you've been on this show quite a few times.
I have.
Over the years.
Have.
It's
virtually part of the furniture by now.
I think so. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what happened when you were a child? We were speaking off-air today about how you were criminalised because of being stolen generation.
Well, yeah, it was a device used by the courts or the child welfare system at the time to remove it from our families, from our biological families, and give us either into foster care or in institutions. And the charge most often used was being neglected. In my case, they said neglected by way of destitution. Now, look, I was only 2.
Oh.
It's not as though I was out there providing for myself at that age.
Wow.
But, yeah, that's kind of how it starts, because then once you do, as kids who have been in foster care or in out-of-home care, any kind of out-of-home care, often do wind up in coming to the attention of the police, they've already got a criminal record. So they're already treated as a repeat offender, and it feeds them straight into the criminal justice system. And as a juvenile, that automatically feeds you into the adult criminal justice system as you get older. It's a pipeline, basically a pipeline.
And so do you still have that criminal record? Like from that time? Or have they erased it?
Yes.
You do?
Yes. It never goes away. None of your record goes away.
So you mean to say that they forcibly made you a ward of the state by removing you from your family? The government did this, and that remains on your record. It's not erased.
It was the first document I found in my wardship file was the charge sheet that they used to charge me.
That is crazy, Vickie.
It is crazy, and it happened to pretty much all of it.
Yeah. And I think that perhaps it's fair to say, really, that that's one of the reasons why a lot of Aboriginal people are overrepresented in the criminal justice system in the prisons.
Well, it is. For a start, we are over-policed. Those kind of issues that start from when you're just a child. Yeah. We're just criminalised from the moment we're born, basically.
Yeah. So, Vickie, when you were in foster care, like growing up, did you know you were Aboriginal?
No, I didn't.
Can you tell us about that?
That was funny, actually. Nobody ever said I didn't even know that I wasn't their child, their biological child, until I was about 8 or 9. But then the family story was that the father, when he came home and found me in the house, has gone, "What's that little wog doing here?" So I just assumed that I was Greek or Italian or something.
Who said that?
My foster father.
Oh. But they weren't Italian?
No. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you... So they said, "What's that little wog doing here?" I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really... That's disastrous, Vickie.
Well, I didn't know about it at the time, of course.
No.
But it was a supposedly funny story as I grew older, and once I knew that I wasn't their kid. But yeah, it led to me kind of believing that that's what I was. And it wasn't until I met my real mother, my biological mother, that I found out that we were Aboriginal.
You were able to meet your biological mother. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you still see her, Vickie?
No, she's passed away now. So.
Oh, my condolences for that. But isn't that wonderful that you were able to meet her?
It was, and I've met my brother as well. I'm going to meet my sister soon too.
Vickie, that is just so cool. It's so cool. I'm so happy for you. So, would you say then that those early formative years led you to go into prison later on as an adult?
Absolutely, 100%.
Why is that?
100%. Because when you're under, like, the child welfare, as it was called in those days, like general behavioural issues, like, you know, getting into trouble at school and stuff like that, was often met with your foster family calling the child welfare, who may or may not call you uncontrollable, in which case you get charged with that too, and put you before a court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's so important, I think, to say that stolen generation and going to prison are interconnected. And to put it in historical context, correct me if I'm wrong here, is that we have to go back before during colonisation, back to the mission days. And that still had far-reaching consequences today, hasn't it?
Oh, well, this country just loves locking people up. You know, if you're not, if you don't conform, if you're not like them, you know, then just lock you up. Lock you up or kill you, one of the two.
Exactly. Vickie, did you see the Four Corners show a couple of weeks ago?
I did.
Can you comment on that?
I did. It's absolutely horrendous. I've seen those cells in the Brisbane Watch House. I've been in one. To put a child in there is just insane. It would traumatise a child so badly. It traumatises adults, let alone children. And that young girl that was placed next to two men that have been charged with pedophilia. Yeah. Like, whose stupid idea was that?
Ridiculous.
And whose stupid idea is it to be putting them in those watch houses in the first place? I can remember when I was a child, things were pretty bad when I was a kid. But they weren't even allowed to put me in the back of a paddy wagon back then. They had to sit me in the front if they arrested me, and they couldn't put handcuffs on me. To be able to put a kid in an adult cell, in an adult watch house, amongst adults, not just for a couple of hours or perhaps overnight in an emergency, but for days, even weeks on end, is like, why aren't there alarm bells ringing all over the country? This is just not acceptable. And the worst thing is, this government that we're now stuck with condones and allows these things to happen and to continue to happen. Like, it was no accident that the Royal Commission into juvenile detention was confined to Northern Territory and wasn't national, because they would have discovered that this is going on all over the country.
That's right.
And it's predominantly Indigenous kids.
It's true.
Because we're more visible, we're over-policed, we have those childhood juvenile records going against us. Everything goes against us.
It really does. And in fact...
I'm sorry for being so pessimistic, but this election is just made me really depressed.
No, it is. It's not pessimistic, Vickie. We have to be real here. I mean, how did the coalition get voted in again?
Well, personally, I think it was rigged.
Yeah?
First of all, you've got Peter Dutton handing out fake how-to-vote cards. We've got how-to-vote things that look, how-to-vote posters right next to Australian Electoral Commission posters in English, but the other ones look like them, but they were in Chinese, and it was how to vote one Liberal.
What?
Yes. Look, these things have to be investigated. Look, how was idiot Palmer able to spend $80 million not to win himself a seat?
No.
But to sell those preferences to the Liberal Party so he can build his rotten, filthy mind.
I know. It's despicable, Vickie.
This election was rigged. I don't believe for 1 second.
Me either.
That the Liberal Party won.
Me either.
There are not enough rich people in this country who have voted those people in.
I know. I kind of got...
There can't be that many people voting against their own interests.
It's true, you know. Although, Vickie, I got carried away when I was interviewing Chris, and I said, how could people be so stupid? And I said it on air, and then I thought, oh, no, what have I done? But I think
Well, I was in a shop before and started talking to a woman behind the jump, and I just assumed that she would have voted Labor. Fortunately, she had.
Who? Who's this?
But like just the conversation I launched into with her was under the total assumption that she felt the same way as me about the election. Yeah, I've yet to run into anybody that actually voted Liberal.
But see,
after Tony Abbott got elected.
Well, he's out.
Thank God for that. At least that's one small mercy. And Jacinta Price and Warren Mundy.
Well, yeah, Uncle Ray Ray Jackson used to say that Abbott was Howard on steroids. Oh, Vickie, yeah, we have to laugh because, like, and I suppose really, I'm not saying that people are stupid. Really, that's not what I really meant. You know, like I was just saying, like. Possibly, maybe because this is a racist country or something.
What's the definition of somebody who would vote against their own interests?
Exactly. That's all I meant. You know.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think it has been rigged to quite largely. It must have been.
The social media campaign, that was just a blitzkrieg from Palmer.
Palmer. Oh.
There's this silly game I play on my phone, and whenever I have to wait for anything, and he popped up on that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Everywhere.
I mean, seriously, Vickie, even Labor would have been better than the coalition.
Like, how does Dutton get back in?
I know.
How does George Christensen get such a huge swing towards him? You know, these are all impossible things.
And Indigenous issues weren't even part of the policy. It was all like
not even
scaremongering.
Yep. All of it. It was horrible. It was like, and it's going to continue for however long these horrible things, reptiles, last in power, although they've made it really hard to oust a particular leader. So it looks like we're stuck with Morrison. Yeah. Which is not going to help anybody. The paper's already calling him the Messiah.
The Messiah?
Yeah, the Messiah from the Shire.
They did actually mention that he was welcomed at church on the Sunday. After the election, they were welcomed at church. I don't know if
this was a slip, but I heard it on the ABC saying that he attended Mass on Sunday morning. But his church doesn't do Mass. He went to his own church. His church don't do Mass. What they're doing is trying to make him sound mainstream. He's a happy clapper.
What do you think the Coalition's policy would be on incarceration of youth in adult prisons? Do you think they'll try and stop it?
No, they'll just build bigger prisons.
Bigger prisons, huh? For profit?
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll just put a youth section in it. And they'll classify it as juvenile detention.
These were children on the Four Corners special. These were children as young as 10 that were being placed in these cells. It was disgusting, Vickie.
And there's no facilities and no privacy. They're abused by the coppers. They're under lights constantly. The noise is incessant. No, you can't treat kids like that.
How is that being allowed?
By this government. That's how.
I mean, I'm wondering that there needs to be some type of law to stop that.
Well, there is. There are any number of human rights laws that international human rights laws that it contravenes. But it seems that Australia no longer has care or concern for those things, or even the what was it? The Convention on the Rights of the
Child. Yeah, and the UN too. Yeah.
Yeah, like we signed up on that, and look what we're doing.
Exactly.
We've become this horrible, ugly country that is like, I don't know.
I know.
I don't know.
David Shoebridge.
If I was another country, I'd invade it.
Oh, God. Recently, actually, the Doing Time show interviewed David Shoebridge, and this was way before the election, and he mentioned that in fact there's an incarceration, a policy against incarceration and looking at deaths in custody on the website there. Have you had a chance to look at that?
Oh, on the Greens website?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. But I'm glad to hear they've got one.
They've got a policy, and in fact, unfortunately, obviously, they weren't elected, but I might have him back, actually, to speak about in more detail, and he's also going to be hopefully the Greens are going to be doing an inquiry into TJ Hickey's death, a parliamentary inquiry, so I'm hoping that can still happen.
At last.
Yeah. So I did an interview about that. Listen to it on the podcast. Look it up on the page if you're interested.
Yeah, I will.
It's approximately...
It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Vickie, this is good that we've been able to discuss all these things, and it's going to take me a while to recover from this election, although I have to be honest with you, I'm not surprised.
Look, neither am I. When Tony Abbott got in, I was surprised. I was shocked. I was
Yeah.
And I thought then it's got to be rigged. And then I found out about Murdoch. Well, I knew about Murdoch, that, just all the pieces all fit together. And, and how can you have any faith in the electoral process when everybody in the community is telling you, no, I said something else, and nobody gets what they want or what they need? Yeah, so this time I was a little less shocked, but I was still surprised.
Well, it's all the more reason to talk about, getting more active and not remaining silent and hitting the streets.
Yes, well, sooner or later we'll have to pull ourselves out of our despair and get back into the revolution.
We have to, Vickie. We have to. Well, keep up the good work.
I will when I recover.
You will. And thanks so much for coming onto the show, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Lovely talking to you, Marisa.
You too. Thanks a lot, Vickie. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that was Vickie Roach, activist, poet and writer, speaking about the election, talking about youth incarceration in adult prisons. And thank you so much to Vickie for coming onto the show, and also to Chris previously.
In December 2017, Tanya Day, proud Yorta Yorta woman and much-loved member of the Aboriginal community, was travelling by train to Melbourne. When V-Line staff found her asleep, they called Castlemaine Police and she was removed from the train and charged with public drunkenness. Tanya died 17 days later as a result of head injuries sustained while in custody. This would never have happened had the recommendations of the 2001 Royal Commission into Aboriginal Deaths in Custody been implemented. Tanya Day's family is calling for the crime of public drunkenness to be abolished and for the implementation of genuine community health alternatives to incarceration. Please add your support by signing the petition at 3CR Reception, 21 Smith Street, Fitzroy, or online by entering Tanya Day Petition into your browser.
Sitting here in a lonely old guest house, I'm sure that my life is all through, scratching free and watching a grey mouse. I'm making love to the memory of you, for without you I'm weak and uncertain, and I feel so naked and cold, like a window without any curtain. My innermost feelings unfold. The drink I just had, it wasn't as bad as the first, but drinking won't do when it's only for you. I thirst for your kiss. It quenches all burning. It's sweeter than the sweetest of wine. Now you're gone, I find myself yearning for the love that I left behind. Nobody can heal the pain that I feel inside. And if I said I'm strong, and I'm never wrong. I've lied. Nobody can heal the pain that I feel inside. And if I said I'm strong and I'm never wrong, I've lied.
And you're back with the Doing Time show. It's approximately 4:54 and we're nearing the end of our show. Thanks to all our guests for coming onto the show. Just to remind listeners about the SNAP rally that's coming up this Friday night, the 24th of May, I believe, at 5:30 at the State Library. We interviewed Chris Breen from the Refugee Action Collective about this. Try and rock up to that, or go to the Refugee Action Collective meetings on Monday nights. And the rally is entitled, just to remind, No Mandate for Refugee Racism, Bring the Refugees Here, Free Priya, Nades and Family. The return of the Morrison government is bad news for refugees. Priya, Nades and their family now face imminent deportation, and the possibility of immediately getting 150 refugees off Manus and Nauru to New Zealand is off the table. But there is no mandate for the refugee cruelty that has marked the last 6 years of coalition rule. Refugees barely featured in the election campaign. Morrison has no mandate of his own. He has no mandate for indefinite detention and no mandate for deportations to danger. Morrison's election is a setback, but according to the media release, this is a quote from the Refugee Action Collective, we know that this is a government that can be fought. Morrison was forced against his wishes to get kids off Nauru. That was won together in solidarity with the struggles of refugees themselves, by refusing to be silent, by being active on the streets and in our workplaces and campuses. And that was just a little bit of a summary of the interview with Chris Breen earlier on. And thank you also to Vickie Roach, who spoke about incarceration. We have about 1 minute before I'm out of here. And tune in to the Doing Time show every Monday from 4 till 5 at 3CR. And coming up after this is Beyond Zero, and we're going to be going out now with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, by the Rumpy Band. And our show is also on podcast as well. So it's goodbye from Marisa, and see you next week.